Mother Earth. And Maria, maybe you can tell us about the context of this event, the series of events for Wisdom Weavers, and yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maria Walker. I'm the Executive Director of Wisdom Weavers of the World. I'm speaking to you from Homer, Alaska. Still dark here. Our sunrise doesn't come till 8:58 this morning. But I just want to give you a little background about Wisdom Weavers for those of you who may not know. In 2017, 13 Indigenous elders gathered in Hawaii to ask, what is the state of the world as we see it now, and what must we be doing? And what emerged from that gathering were two things, and one was Wisdom Weavers of the World and this unified message to bring humankind back into the heart. And so in 2021, Wisdom Weavers co-created a project to help breathe life into this message. And it's a series we are calling Into the Heart, Indigenous Pathways to Love. And we began this series last month with a ceremony and a webinar, as we are doing this month. And we aspire to share messages from our loving elders every month, with our community, leading right up to our in-person gathering in Hawaii in 2022, which leads me to invite you to consider supporting our Into the Heart series. If by the end of this ceremony you feel nourished, please consider reciprocating by nourishing our work through a financial donation. We will actually put our link to our donation page in the chat box. And I just want to say thank you to these amazing women who are going to be leading the ceremony this morning. I can already tell the waterworks coming on, just looking at their faces as we prepared, got me very emotional. And so I also want to say thank you to this greater community for sharing in this heart space with us. Thank you so much. And with that, I'll turn it over to Yael.
Thank you, Maria. In order to have all the space for the ceremonial offering, or as much as possible, the introductions will be in the chat box, which we will now close, and it will be only available for hosts and co-hosts. So we will put the bios here in a minute, and the flow of event is going to be this explanation by Maria and myself, and then we're going to have an opening prayer and by Auntie Puna, and then a womb meditation by Diana Lam. Then we will have the elders offering their ceremonial offerings with us, at the end of which we will go into deep silence listening, and after about 2 minutes we'll open the chat box, still in silence, so whoever wants to go into words can do that and share your offering in the chat box with silent words that we all can read and be nourished by and nourish others. And we will end with the closing prayer from Pat McCabe, Woman Stands Shining. And now I would like also to say a word to our other selves, men and other not women genders. Thank you for respecting our request and protecting our space, our feminine space from the outside, so that we women can be free to do our work. And just in case there are some that may be watching hidden in the corners of room away from the eye of Zoom, Now is the time to let the woman next to you have the space to herself and go to another room to watch on YouTube. For the womb is an all feminine space. This is how nature is. So even if the woman next to you said it's okay, even if she invited you, you can see now that it's a mistake. This collective womb is not hers, it's not mine. It belongs to all the women gathered here co-creating this energetic womb. And if you listen, you can hear that that womb is telling you, no, do not come in. We are telling you what you could do, which is support us from YouTube by watching and protecting from the outside. Because even a glance can be invasive. You say a fly on the wall, how can that disturb? A fly on the wall of the womb? No, that's not life. So please. And we can understand that you want to be in the womb and feel the potential new life, that energy of blessed, unconditional love, judgment-free acceptance all around you. Understandable. Maybe in the future we could, when the womb and the time is ripe. But right now, we are still healing a lot as a collective. We need to heal the feminine. And to a womb that is wounded or young, very young, you don't come in. Not by force, not by sneaking, not even with the illusion of permission. You just don't. It is said by the elders that women at this time, more than ever, should come together in sisterhood, connect to the womb in them and those around them, heal and nourish the feminine, and do ceremony to put that collective energy outside themselves for something new to be birthed into the world, for different parts to come together and create something that never existed before, so it can emerge out into the world and become life. And it is the role of men and other genders that are not women to protect the sacred space of women so that they can do this work. Without that, humanity will not have a future. So thank you for doing your part in this work. And now, Auntie Puna, please, could you lead us with the opening prayer?
Mahalo, everyone. I'm going to take the words of our queen, Lili Wokalani, and it's a pule that she instructed all of us when she was in prison. But it's joy. It's about joy. And what it says in Hawaiian is we all come together as one. O kahi puana, ko pu'uwai, people that come from the heart. Ika poe I aloha. Let us be the people who come not only with the heart, but come with the joy and the appreciation and the grace of love. Ika lahui. Let us be this intention that continues to be for now and forevermore. So now that I've said our intention, let me do it in her thoughts. Ho'o kahi puana, ko pu'uhai, o ka po'e I aloha, e ka lahui. Aloha.
Thank you so much, Auntie Puna. Diana, could you take us into the womb with a meditation?
Yes, it's my pleasure. I would like to light a candle here with you. If anyone brought a candle, please bring it forth. This is the time to light it. touching one light to another, one flame to another. And inviting us to close our eyes and to breathe. Let's breathe out of our consciousness any thought that is not supportive to our womb. Any thoughts we have absorbed during our childhood and adolescence and adult years from the culture that is not womb-centered. Anything that is not in love of our womb, in support and acceptance of our womb, let's breathe it out. And let's breathe in the light of this flame and the freshness of this moment. And let's take this flame of light from outside into our heart. And let the heart illumines like the sun, the moon of our womb. She who cycles, she who dances, she who rhythms around and around in an ever-growing spiral. Inviting our womb to be the center of the world, the womb of the earth reflected in each of our wombs, and seeing this web of wombs, each one of ours, and beyond us, in a growing circle in our community, the wombs of women still sleeping in their beds, the womb of girls who are not yet bleeding, the wombs of grandmothers who no longer bleed, the wombs of women who came before us, buried children, who aborted children, miscarried children, who had their wombs removed by the knife, the wombs of future generations of girls not yet born, who will bring creativity into this world when their time comes. Together, we are a web of wombs, a web of creativity, a web of potentiality, for our womb is a cauldron of transformation where potentiality lives. All possibilities live simultaneously in our wombs, and we bring to life creativity, insights, ideas, life that we birth from our womb under the rays of the sun of our heart. Let's take a moment of being curled as fetuses inside of our wombs, feeling the heart shines on us with warm, long rays of light and warmth. Let's feel the first stirrings of life in the fetus that we are in our own womb, in the womb of the Greater Mother, beginning to stir and awaken to offer our calling into the world, which might be a smile to a stranger or a word that only we can bring forth. Our gifts are plenty and many, and they come from our womb. Let yourself stretch inside of the womb until you're ready to birth forth yourself in this moment as you are now, renewing yourself yet again with this next breath. The womb is the language of our blood, the blood that flows through our veins, from our heart, everywhere around our body, the blood that nourishes life within our womb, the language of our heart, Lashon Hadam, Limba de Sunje. Let us be fluid in our womb. Aho. Let's stay for a moment in our womb and in silence. And with our eyes still closed, remembering in our consciousness the surrounding, all that is around each of us, shapes and objects and colors and flames and screens, and the womb as a living torch in the center of it. Wiggling our toes and our fingers to bring ourselves into our body and into this moment. And when we feel fully here in our consciousness, in our body, allowing our eyes to gently open. Welcome back. ברוכות הבאות, בינה עצבנית. Aho.
Thank you, Diana. And Tahira, the technology is a bit challenging, so I'm calling you as long as we have you. Can you please share your offering?
Good morning to all of us from here at the big ocean. I like to take us into that big ocean so we can find that way of just envision how we spin out in this big ocean of life across the world, connecting these different wounds that comes through this symbiotic fluids and waters. Just feel into those places, that symbiotic fluid. See if you can feel into it and taste it. Sense that womb, its saltiness, its sweetness, and fluidity. See it how it flows and moves throughout the earth. Sometimes breaking apart in little image of springs and puddles and just drops, but yet belonging to the same larger field, larger ocean, flowing in and out and not forgetting from where she came, finding her way back, and feel that this is what Earth is calling to us, the mothers now, to sort of weave ourselves out of this imprisonedness that we have find ourselves in today. Feel that sisterhood, that motherhood, and know that we all are mothers. We all are sisters. We all are co-creators of this great planet. And when we whisper into it, when we reach down and touch that small child, maybe with a glance, that we mothers, grandmothers, daughters, sisters, when we envision and see the hurt on this planet, know that we mothers can smile. Just that little light of love that sometimes to the child may feel like a kiss. Just kind of feel that. Maybe you have a childhood experience that you remember that you was feeling alone and separate from that love and that compassion, and someone came along and just smiled at you, bowed to you, and all of a sudden you felt always safe. Because you brought the safetiness of yourself. Somehow we forgot that how to bring this into our landscape, into the world for healing, and remember that we are the womb, we are the mothers, and that we feel this suffering, this breaking apart, this split away, painful. It's sitting there waiting for us to acknowledge it. So I remember you. I even remember when we broke away, and I am now coming home to reclaim you, Sacred Mother. I'm coming home again to reclaim you here in this sacred wombness, in this sacred knowingness. And I no longer feel separate from this big ocean of my own sisterhoods. And I can remember when we gathered here in a full moon time and we danced on the planet. We danced together. We danced by the fires. We noticed the sparks and we danced with the sparks as we remember them. And some of us, if we go back into our childhood and remember as little girls, we danced with those sparks and we called them firebugs. Remember, feel them and feel that twirling that at that time you felt that connection. Go back into that innocence of that womb and allow your hands to go out and feel her and sense her. And maybe I want to say, I'm so sorry that I disconnected. And I am so sorry. So can I forgive myself? I forgive myself. And as I forgive myself, I forgive the ignorance of all of us who broke away in that time of darkness, forgetfulness. Feel that in our hearts. And emerging from that place, feel that in that heart place and feel that, yes, we are coming home. We're coming home, Mother. We're coming home again to that place where life flows and those rivers flow. And we gather around and we remember this sacred agreement that we made to go out and be life givers, life healers, mothers, doctors, grandmothers, and healers of our planet. And we are ever grateful for this opportunity to remember who we truly are: mothers, grandmothers, daughters, great grandmothers, and on and on. We are home again. We are home again in this our sacred womb. We are home again. And we are in gratitude for each one of us around this fire circle right now, touching, weaving ourselves back into being. And so it is, and so it be. Welcome home, my sisters. Welcome home, my daughters. Welcome home, grandmother. Welcome home. For we are home. And with that, find our ways back into our body, back into now this here now space. And when you feel awake, comfortable, open your eyes and be here now.
Ashe, thank you, Toda Rabba. Auntie Puna, are you with us? Can you unmute and show us yourself and give us your offering?
Aloha, everyone. We are all part of this truth and appreciation of life that was gifted to us, and we all come into the womb at the moment of our creation. And at that time, the light of who we are becomes known. And it's that light that belongs only to us. So I thank my mother for being the receptacle, and my father for being the provider to allow me to be a part of the world that we know now. I call upon the light that we all have, our own light. When we offer light and love to others, we're acknowledging the light that we all hold. Only belongs to us. It comes at the time of our conception. I feel that this is a message of the time that we're living. You know, a year ago, 2 years ago, a month ago, 4 months ago, our opportunity to be in each other's place. This technology has allowed us to share in these moments, but even more important, to share our personal light that belongs only to us. We become this blanket, or moina in Hawaiian, a blanket of peace. So yes, we can acknowledge the sadness for many of us in the lives that we have experienced. But let us all go back to that moment of our conception, where we were first introduced to the womb. Let us be that light that we share with the rest of the world. Let us be that blanket or moina that continues to lift the needs, the wants, the expressions necessary to create this blanket of peace, a place of gift giving that we all share. Mahalo for these moments in time. Mahalo for sharing the light that belongs to you with all of us. Mahalo.
Mahalo, toda raba. Thank you. Pat McCabe, Woman Stands Shining. Can we have you give us your offering next, please?
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Dr. Ebene, greeting you from my mother's house in Albuquerque, New Mexico this morning. So grateful to enter into this space with you, enter the space that we are creating together and remembering. And seeing for the first time, maybe. First, I feel to revisit that moment that we were brought to of being in the womb and feeling ourselves curled there and tasting the fluid. Hearing the heartbeat, echoing our own heartbeat, persistent in our ears as they are growing and forming and developing. The most dominant sound in our experience at that time. And the moment that really stuck with me from that memory, from that creation, was feeling the walls of that place of being held, dreaming myself into life, still being connected to cosmos, stars, and feeling those contractions begin to happen around me. The squeezing, the massaging, the signaling, even the chemistry flowing through my body, changing, alerting me to what is about to happen. My limbs becoming restless. And then the beginning of being massaged and being pushed through that birth canal. And this time, I see myself emerging painlessly. My own daughter was born painlessly. But this time I see me squatting with full support all around me and behind me. And as I emerge into the world, I catch myself this time. And I see those eyes, those eyes shining. Full of knowing, full of the other worlds, other dimensions, other places in the stars, arriving in my own loving hands. Look into those eyes. I greet myself this time with my full understanding of all of my life experience. Having learned all the lessons of what I would have done differently. I used to say, if only I could, but now I can. She's right here in my hands, her eyes looking back into mine. All the prayers I've made, all the ceremonies, all the fruits that I'm living, all of that passageway from confusion into faith. She receives the benefit of that full faith that I hold right now. Now I know to protect her space, and I am capable of making it just right this time. And I'm capable of calling in beautiful love from my sisters, from my family of choice, and from my lover. And in this moment, I choose to pass on to her the knowledge of how much tenderness and care, love, affection, reverence, admiration that her father held for me in that moment of conception, all of his skill and virility, bringing me to heights of ecstasy, and then beyond ecstasy, to travel the earth, to travel beyond the earth, to look at the earth and feel my full capacity as a woman to bless creation. In this union, this is how she was conceived. She was conceived in the union of the true sacred masculine, coming to hold, protect, ignite the true sacred feminine, providing the safety for the sacred feminine eros to blossom fully, the feminine virility to be released onto creation in blessing. This is how she came to be in the world. And there is no new world that we cannot create together. She is whole. She is aware. She is perfect. She is received. She is celebrated. She is nurtured. She is nourished. I take her to my breast and feed her all of the wisdom that has been given to me. She feels my strength, my capability, my confidence, my joy, my faith, my spirit, my beauty. And this is natural for her. This is life. This is the way it is. Let's take a breath together. And one more. When you're ready, gently open your eyes again. Look into your own eyes. And there she is. Oh, mitakuyasan. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Toda rabba, Pat. Anita, can you give us your offering next, please?
Really. Hello, my beautiful sisters and aunties and grandmothers and daughters and life. In this space of our connected womb, I'm reminded to first give thanks to all the places that you are, to all the first peoples whose lands and waters and all the elements that are there, to allow me to be a guest in this virtual space, for it's still interconnected. And I'm smiling because I think I forget that because of this technology. But in this and from this womb space, there is no forgetting. It's just, it's really just acknowledging and knowing that. And I'm really joyful this morning to done ceremony with the rising sun here. I just got back from Sonoma, and this place, and I can feel and acknowledge the Ute and the Cheyenne and the Arapaho who have allowed me to be a guest and to grow and to just feel when I, like a grandmother, like a mother, just knowing when to whisper, when to speak more strongly, And when it's just a touch, a blanket. And with you all, I can feel that first blanket, the womb. And I'm in such gratitude about that. And from the security, the knowing that I'm part of the one, the heart of Mother Earth, that all our ancestors know each other, I'm traveling in a different way. Perhaps you are traveling too. Because we are in a time, like all time, like the circle time, adaptation is required. And what better knows that than the womb? And I'm speaking not only the womb of the two-leggeds, but from Mother Earth, the womb of all her children, who I don't say anymore don't have voice. They do have voice. We merely need to listen. And in that adaptation, who better than we are who are gathered here, who are here with us in spirit, to understand that process that happens in the womb, that creativity, that light. I have joyful news to bring, because I was just party to the awakening of a group of people. And it was awakening me too. So I'm not just pointing at them, but it's been a long struggle that I felt the ancestors, the grandmother, and the safety of the womb to keep speaking out. The prophecy you're sharing is not correct. It is not ours to change the original wisdom. It is ours to adapt, to be able to continue to create life, but not to change what we know to be true. And finally, after decades, it was heard. And it was women who were speaking up and supporting. I felt so supported at that moment in the last few days. I was the auntie, the grandmother voice that could keep coming back. I felt such support. And even from the men who understood this can be no longer. That in this adaptation is also the unfolding of the truth of the womb, the truth from the heart of Mother Earth, the truth of the life that we all are, and that we honor by being able to also say, I'm sorry. I can change. We can change collectively and honor the love of those who dreamed us here. And now we are the future ancestors for all the young ones already born and to be born. So I bring to you all just the happiness that a very large group of people now understand the eagle and the condor and will no longer be perverting it. And the understanding of the indigenous people, the eagle and the condor flying together again, coming back together, the healing that needs to take place. And in that way, not only healing of indigenous, but all beings, and the safety then of all our relatives, two-legged, four-legged, winged, all the elements, all our relatives, going on and on and on. So this morning, as I showed up a little bit late, I stood as my grandmother taught us to stand early in the morning, to be here as the sun just rises, and to breathe in that light, which she would touch her stomach. She only had two hands, but it felt like she could touch all her grandchildren's stomachs. it just, this girl, she just like, tú eres la una, tú eres la una. You're the ones to remember that we are light, but the light doesn't come from the mind. The light comes from the sun. The light comes from the moon, from the stars. The light we breathe in, and then we share it back out. And to remember that. To remember that. So I hear in a lot of different prophecies at this time that the women, not in degradation of men or those that hold, including us, male energy, just as they hold feminine energy, but that it is our time to speak up. And I just want to share, after this very large journey of decades of having the support of the light, many two-leggeds and others, that finally was heard, is that I want us to know that we are to speak up. But I don't want us to be confused as part of the womb, part of Mother Earth, the heart of her. We have been speaking up. It also requires listening. So I say that in my decades of being alive and supported by the light and the many, many different indigenous people. I look here and I always, I'm so grateful for the Nawa, for my grandmother, as people knew as a Stecken. But I always wonder, like, why is it the women, the different indigenous women were so kind to me when I'm so stupid at times? I don't know always which womb I'm coming from, that it is one. But that was always there when I came to Colorado, the Dene people, the Lakota. And I'm like, oh, I miss my grandmother. And now I've learned that I come as far south as the Amazon and even desert tribes. And then I think, why should that be the surprise, Anita, the eagle and the condor? We flew together. We traveled. We love each other. I don't mean to romanticize it. I know there was problems too, but there was this flowing. And so today, as I open Piali, I hear my grandmother and my great grandmother speaking Nawa. And I'm grateful to the womb, our shared womb, the heart of Mother Earth. That we can continue to speak and share for the two-leggers and all the creatures. From that knowing, from that sacred knowing. And to give forgiveness to ourselves and to others, and including the men who don't always hear and may take decades, but for ourselves to continue. I give gratitude to the heart of Mother Earth. I give gratitude to my mother, my grandmother, the great-grandmothers, and the grandmothers of all of you and all our ancestors who do know each other. In love and kindness, gratitude. Oh.
Thank you, Anita. Toda raba. Prajna, can you share your offering with us next, please?
Aloha mai. I am gratefully tuning in from Cherokee lands where we are visiting. I feel so deeply moved from my sisters, Ia, and Pat, and Anita and Deanne. I will endeavor to share a few words from my heart, but truly I feel in a space beyond words, so please bear with me. Feel the potency of this moment, and at least in my own system, the cellular rearranging that happens in true ceremony to reconnect to such a deep space of vulnerability, of presence. And like you, Anita, I've been taught and also rise before the sun and head out to listen. And as the starlight was starting to sing in my system today, she just was asking me to be real and vulnerable and share. This is a continuous practice to return to my womb, to return to my heart, to my breath. And I'm super blessed to spend a lot of time with Puna, who feels like she's always in this current of creation. And for myself, and perhaps you can relate to this, it's a continuous cultivation, a deep remembering and an unlayering. And I feel the intensity of this full moon, of this moment of profound transformation. And I recognize this misperception that I've been unpacking. And the misperception said something to the effect that the more I live fully in my heart, moment to moment to moment, maybe the less pain I would feel, not just in my own story or lineage, but of the earth. Obviously, a huge misperception, for the opposite is, in my experience of feeling this time on our planet and feeling both and, feeling the immense destruction and suffering along with the emergence of the new. And so this devoted practice allows me to move beyond my own lens of perception, of seeing through any trauma or misunderstanding. And as I enter back into my womb space, my heart, my breath, this moment, I have a moment of true understanding, and my perception shifts, and I feel the fragrance of flowers pulsing in my palms, and I feel my instructions singing through my heart, and I take steps forward. And so, for whatever it's worth, my humble sharing here today is just to share that for myself. It's a continuous choosing. It's a moment to moment practice of being so undefended and fully present and in my heart. So it is from this space of devotion and deep gratitude to all of the amazing women here and in our world, and through this time, through past time, through future time, that I offer my love into this circle. Thank you.
Thank you, Toda Bwana. Apira, can we have your offering next?
Good morning. I'd like to begin with the words that come before all else. Thank you. Yana wena, 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 yana wena. Hey, and I, oh, yeah. ancestors, Mother Earth, Sky Woman, Sajistri Yahweh, asking permission to enter your mystery, the mystery of the story of the earth, of you, expressed through the womb of Mother Earth and my own and our own womb. The stories of the womb, the power of our wombs has been brutally suppressed for hundreds and sometimes thousands of years. It's still alive in the land, and it's still alive in the sacred sites. Here on the west side of Maui, the place of the sacred feminine, Kahalavai, the mountain of the waters, the moon. I live here, the base of that mountain range. We have another mountain here, Haleakala, House of the Sun. It kept its own name, but here on the west side, the place of the rains, the place of conception, life, death, rebirth, the name of the mountain is changed, West Maui Mountain. Everything feminine suppressed. This was described as the little Venice of the Pacific when missionaries arrived. Now it's semi-arid. We have hurricanes with no water, but fires blazing across the Kula lands, the lands between the mountain and the waters, the lands once vibrant with sandalwood forests and life. I arrived here as an Oneata woman, Oneida woman, and a Gaul woman, married to a Hawaiian carver, a person key in the Hawaiian Renaissance of the 1980s and 90s. Arriving here through a dream that came to me in a peyote ceremony in Navajo land in 1985. I saw this place. I saw my future husband. And when I arrived at the place, was devastated to find out that the place of this sacred medicine woman, the sacred place of conception, a pond with a 34-foot black lizard, a water spirit, and a protector, had been filled by missionaries and by plantations, sugarcane plantation. And I determined I would dig this memory out. I would dig this pond out if I have to do it with a spoon at a time. 30 years later, I discover a story of Manua Kepa, the owl woman. This story is a story of our moment now, confronting death everywhere. Our wombs still exist, but there's someone always trying to destroy her. This story talks about a moment like this. And like all Native stories, there's no back then it happened or forward it's going to happen. It's now, like the Manava, the sacred time in the womb, the dream of our ancestors, the dream of the earth, the dream of our parents, their love. Kapuna Kea White Springs, a temple of white coral gleaming in the sunlight. It's a sacred time, a ceremony. The villagers of this small community, Hawaiian community, just up from the ocean, has gathered to celebrate. The temple is a woman's temple of learning. The chief or chiefess of this community is Manua Kepa, the spirit of the owl who becomes manifest in this woman chief and is itself an advocate, an emissary of the womb of our time. One day, they look out on the ocean during this ceremony and see canoes come in. And the villagers, some of them go down, as is accustomed, to meet the canoes coming in. What the villagers don't know is that these are not ordinary canoes of men. These men are following a Tahitian leader, Pa'au, his teachings, which is about separation, about violence, about destruction of the womb, of the original people, the Mo'o people, the lizard, the fetus in the womb, those people, our people, these people who are in ceremony. The canoes come forward, and when they come forward with screaming and yelling and chaos and spears, they kill the first messenger that greets them. They surge forward towards the temple and begin capturing people and take the first villager that they've killed and consecrate him to their war god, Ku. And in that moment, declare the temple theirs, no longer the temple of birth, renewal, of women's wisdom, of the power and the knowledge of the owl to go between the worlds as wombs do. It will now be dedicated to violence and patriarchy and male dominance. The warriors capture a number of villagers and tie them up, prepared to sacrifice them as human offerings to their god the next day. All the villagers flee in every direction, terrified. They've never encountered anything like this horror. That night, Manua Kepa returns. We don't know if she's in owl form or human form, but when she returns, she frees the villagers. It's important to know that these villagers have changed since their capture. They have been consecrated to the war god of separation and death, and their minds have changed and are changing, neither fully alive nor dead. They remain. Manua Kepa frees them, and in the darkness of night leads them from the temple up the mountainside to her owl cave. It's strange, but in the lava ash, you can see the footprints. They're moving backwards. Conventional Western patriarchy says that was to mislead the people who had captured them, to think that the people had gone from the owl cave to the temple. But that's preposterous. No one would do that in the dark, running for their lives. So what do we know from that? The teachings are, in a time of death, a confrontation with death, there's always a choice. And to get out of it, we walk backwards out of that space in our minds and in our time. Something happens in the owl cave by nature of consoling and counsel. And then Owl Woman takes the formerly captured villagers, men and women alike, and moves them down through a lava tube. You can hear the drip of the water and the blackness of this lava tube. The ground is rough and uneven, pahoe lava on bare feet. There's no sound other than the sound of breath. There's no feeling other than trepidation, of fear, of hope. She walks them through this utter black womb. They arrive at a cliff, and the cliff is named Keka'a. It's the jumping off place to the next world and faces the setting sun. It's a Laina. They get to the cliff, and there's a cave at the base of this cliff. There, Manua Kepa leaves them. There, they will make a choice that we face right now. The cave is not empty. Someone awaits, an intelligence we call moi moi. And moi moi is the spirit of sleep. You can tell children at night, go moi moi, go to sleep. But moi moi is far more than that. Moi moi is also a god in its own right, and it's the spirit of the long sleep or death. These villagers, having gone through the rebirth that Manua Kappa has taken them through, now face moi moi. With their consciousness restored somewhat, they are ready, and it is a choice to be made. They can choose, go to the other world, and the other world is not hell. The other world is simply another world. They can go there, or they can come back to life. Apparently, their decision and how they are in their hearts, their birth has been such that they're coming back to this life. So they pass out of the cave, emerge in the ocean, and swim up because the cave was below water level. So they come out the ocean exit, swim up, break water, gasp their breath of life, and then set out on another walk, this one quickly to the north side of the island, to another sacred site. And this is a site that's dedicated to those who have seen death, chosen life. And the original leader of that cave is now said to be the guardian of the other world. So that's the story. That story has taken me 7 years to retrieve the bits and pieces and the desecrated sites that there are on this west side, which is the important jumping off place to the next world, where we also can come back. This dream of life, the dream of the womb, the story in the earth, is the power that we're looking for now. Some of us, like myself, we come from two lineages. I am Oniata Aga, Oneida woman, people of the everlasting rock. I am also French, and now I can say Gaul. With the power of the womb, with the knowledge of my Oniata Aga ancestry and culture, I went into my French culture to retrieve my white soul from the lost and found of being a perpetrator as a total identity to being an enlivened and emboldened Indigenous Gaul woman. Every year I go to the ceremonies in the south of France in the painted caves, and I met my tribal ancestors, the Occitan, who unbelievably after 2,000 years of oppression still speak their own language, have their own ceremonies. And I found them. We all can find this place. For those who come from European descent, who look for reconciliation with the indigenous lands and people we live on, I have an offering. Every year in France, I take part in a ceremony at a sacred hill in a community called Chartres. This hill in the north and west of France was the most sacred site of the Gaul Celtic indigenous people. Every year, people would gather at this hill in ancient times and do a ceremony of renewal of conception of life. The hill is aligned with the North Star. Within the hill is a spring and also a curious feature. 2 different rocks, white and black, meet and rub together in this place. It is sensual. It is lovemaking. It is our power. This sacred site had oaks on the top of it. The medicine people Druids, men and women alike, met beneath the oaks on this hill in a ceremony of renewal, of life, of thanksgiving. I've prepared a sound clip from that site as we remember who we are. Sound can guide us back to the womb, to the heart of our being. Listen now to the sounds of that site. The only sounds recorded there are sounds that we know for sure existed. The sound of breath, the sound of the heart, the sound of water moving up through the cells of the oak tree. Listen now, remember, renew, rejoice. All my relations. Yield.
Liberty, can you please play it for us?
Yes, one moment.
I apologize for the sound. It's not playing right. You can hear the water moving through the cells of the oak, the branches rubbing against each other, the deep breath, and then the sound of the thunder and the lightning. Thank you.
Apologies for the tech. Thank you, Apira, for the description. It's beautiful. We will send it in an email so you can listen to it if that's okay with Apira. And as we are listening, we invite you to go deeper into the place of opening up not only our ears, but everything in our body and our soul that can receive all that has been offered by our elders, all that your womb is resonating and telling you, all that this moment is bringing from this co-creation, this encounter. So we invite you to listen, and in about 2 minutes we will open the chat box. The silent will still be there, and our sisters who have been listening quietly so far, you can give your offerings in written words in the chat box when we open it in 2 minutes. Let us listen for now from a place as deep as the womb. Thank you. chat box is open to receive offerings of those who wish to share. Thank you. Thank you for the silence, for the listening, for the sharing. Thank you for the offerings, both verbal and now in typing, and also with just energy of deep listening. And we are going to stop the recording and the live streaming, and then Pat will leave us with a closing prayer.